Join us today as we discuss our, and apparently not just our, but several other people's declining interest in the MCU. Hello, folks. Just want to make a quick note here at the beginning of this video that this video was actually filmed like a month ago. So, in the interim, since then, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has released, and I have watched it as well as Ant-Man 3, because it actually did go to streaming quickly, unlike what my comment towards the end of this video is going to say. So that does not overall change my opinion in this video, but I did want to note that there are some comments to the effect of, well, I hope Guardians 3 is good, or, we'll have to see how Quantum Mania goes. So, like, I have watched those two movies. For the record, very briefly, I thought Quantum Mania wasn't as bad as a lot of people made it out to be, but it's not great. And Guardians 3 I thought was actually really good. Not perfect, what in life is, but it's pretty solid. And I think the only thing hurting its box office is the other movies that have come out before it. Which sucks because, again, it's good and it's not connected to them. So, you don't have to see them. You could come to this movie straight from Endgame, although you should watch the Christmas special first. But yeah, so I just wanted to make that comment here so you don't watch this back. What the hell are you talking about? Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is already out. If you watch it immediately, obviously if you watch this in the future, you would think that. But anyway, just wanted a little explanation there. Like I said, even though I thought Guardians 3 was really good, it doesn't really change my overall impressions that you're about to hear in this video. So, just wanted to explain that up front. And thank you folks for watching, and now back to the regularly scheduled video. Welcome back, those of you who've been here before. Welcome those of you who are new to the channel. Today, this is the Geek Cabal channel. I'm Bobby. Typically, Brad and or Chad would be here, but scheduling conflicts, which we're going to talk a little more about that here in a moment. Not with them, but just in general. Have kind of prevented everyone and all of us from getting together here recently, which we'll hopefully be able to resolve somehow, some way soon. But in the meantime, this is Jim, or Jimmy as I've occasionally referred to him. By the time you see this video, he'll probably have been in another video. It just depends on when I get them edited and put out. But yeah.
I'm the temporary help until full-time help gets back in.
No, you're not temporary help. There's while Chad or probably Brad could also have some input on this topic, they're not. Neither of them is anywhere near the Star Trek fan you are.
Yeah.
And Chad's probably close on the Star Wars front. But there's definitely some interest that we share that the other two aren't as keen on. So you're not a substitute.
All right.
So to that point, today, declining interest in the MCU. Now, I know for my part, a big problem has just been the scheduling. I wanted to go see Ant-Man 3, even though I heard it was not good. I heard it was not great. I didn't, some of the reviews make it sound like it's trash, but I can find reviews that say Endgame is trash, and well, it's not. So, scheduling just didn't work out. And now, my fallback plan of watching it on streaming, Disney has not said when they intend on putting it on streaming. So who the hell knows?
And I know right now I'm a few movies missed out on. It's pretty sad, but I think I didn't see Love and Thunder, did not see the second Black Panther, did not see Ant-Man.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chad and I did go watch Love and Thunder. We did a review on it. We probably gave it too glowing a praise. In hindsight,
because I had an idea a long time ago for a different way to do movie reviews. Wanted to do one like immediately after we watched the movie, and then like a week later once we had time to think about it. And we just never really, since we can't get together as often as we'd like to, it's very difficult to try to do that. So we did it very shortly after seeing it. And in hindsight, I probably was a little too praising of it, but that's what happens.
And for me, it's like it's something I always like to take my kids to be able to go to see the next Marvel movie. And I think the last one we saw was Doctor Strange 2, which I thought was a decent movie. I mean, it gave me hope that there was some light coming back to the whole MCU. Black Widow I thought was just mediocre, and to me it felt like it could have been a Disney Plus streaming show, and it would have been probably just okay in that as well. But
yeah, I have issues with Black Widow that are more along the lines of some of the issues I have with Black Panther 2, which is why I still haven't watched Black Panther 2. I know that they're never going to be perfect adaptations, but they have begun to take like excessive liberties, in my opinion. Like what they did to Taskmaster in that movie, that's almost unforgivable. Like, what? I don't even know what the hell that was supposed to be, but that was not Taskmaster. Like, no. Well, I'm sorry. Not at all. And I feel the same way about Namor, or as I'm given to understand, Namor, in Black Panther 2. And yes, that was enough for me to be like, no, I'm not in a huge rush to watch this. I will watch it at some point. It's on streaming now. I will watch it. I just haven't taken the time to do it. It's not like a total boycott or anything, but I'm not even a huge fan of Namor, but just the totally changing the character in the ways they did. No, not down for that. Sorry.
And that's one thing I know I'm a little more forgiving on the with some of the changes. I mean, you got to understand the MCU is its own universe. It's its own reality. It can take some liberties, and I'm not as picky on some of that stuff. There's pointless switches that there's obviously some sort of other motive to the switch versus just casting or moving that character in the direction that the comics take. And I don't understand it always. I mean, I understand that they that there is a desire to have inclusion and stuff like that, but there's plenty of characters out there that fit that.
Yeah, and where there aren't, make them. Like, there's nothing stopping them from making new characters for the movies. Now, I know they won't be as cherished as older characters, and I get that argument, because I've seen it before whenever I've pushed back with, well, just make your own characters. And if this were the comics, I would agree, because in the comics, it's very difficult to get new characters to take off. Like, from the last 15, 20 years of Marvel Comics, I think the characters that have gone anywhere are literally like Miles, Spider-Man, Miles, and Kamala Khan, and I think what's her name? It's with Devil Dinosaur,
Moon Girl,
and that's because she's in a bunch of like YA books and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure like that's it for Marvel. Like, they keep trying with Ironheart. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. And they keep trying with other characters. Like, they even had a whole initiative, I think it was Marvel Now, where they literally like replaced a bunch of characters with like legacy versions of them. That's where you got like the Amadeus Cho Hulk and things like that. And within 2 years, they were back to everyone being back who they were. Like, it was never going to work, because they try to force it instead of letting it grow naturally. Like Miles, and he was from the Ultimates universe, but he grew naturally out of the Spider-Man comic that was there, where Peter got to be his Uncle Ben, essentially. So it all made sense how Peter went out, and Miles took up the mantle and ran with it. And now Marvel doesn't know what the hell to do with him, so they keep having him like swap out for other heroes and stuff, and they've got a huge identity crisis with him. And I agree with some people. The key is he needs to stop being Spider-Man because there's already a Spider-Man. He needs to take on a new identity entirely so he can be his own character fully. And that's to my mind, that's the way forward. That he's no longer in Peter's shadow. He's embraced his own thing. And that's kind of like whenever Falcon became Captain America, I didn't have a problem with it at all because there's only two people that, in my mind, are the heir to that, and that's Bucky or Falcon, one of the two. The problem with Falcon doing it, though, is he was his own character and then jumps into Steve's shadow to become Captain America. That's the only real problem I had with it was that he gave up an identity that he'd had since the 70s to just become another version of an existing character. So it's kind of a downgrade. It's an upgrade to Captain America, and the implications of a black Captain America, like there's story potential there.
But he's a flying Captain America.
That's fine. I mean, it'd be the same. Well, it wouldn't be the same, but like Luke Cage is one of the only other characters I could see kind of going that route. Because like he's the whole truth justice thing. He's been wronged. He's got a different perspective on things. He's got the power set to act as Captain America. And again, the whole the black Captain America. There is story potential there if you're not ham-fisted with it and actually try to do something with it. And for whatever it's worth, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I don't think was ham-fisted with their storyline. Because seeing Isaiah from the red, white, and black comic, where he was one of the other people that they tried to get the super soldier serum to work with again, and the implication that they took a bunch of black guys and tried it on them because they were expendable essentially.
Yeah, I mean
it's one of those that kind of sucks, but also unfortunately we have real world proof that the government was totally willing to do things like that. So it's not that far beyond the realm. And then bury it all, that's one of those it's a hard story, but it's an honest story, And I don't view those kinds of stories as pandering or anything.
No, but I mean,
unlike other stories they attempt sometimes.
But no, I mean, it was a continuation of what happened to Captain America, what happened after all that, and it was good. I mean, to your point, it fit, and it honestly it was great. I mean, it was a good story. It told the story. I don't know. I had no issues with it. I like the fact that it wasn't just okay. Let's give Bucky that Bucky's like no. You do your thing. That's that's too much light for me. You got it.
Yeah, and unlike comic Bucky was at that point, this Bucky is still grappling with all the Winter Soldier stuff. I mean, comic Bucky, he kind of got over it. This is the way I read it. But also, that's an excellent arc in the comics for those of you who haven't read it. The whole Winter Soldier story arc. It's excellent.
So, kind of for me, the whole where the MCU is at now versus where it started from. I still remember seeing the first Iron Man in theaters. There was no expectation of any sort of storyline. When we talk about taking liberties, the liberties that they took made sense because they wanted to take Iron Man from the past and put him into something a little bit more more recent, into Afghanistan versus
outside of a handful of characters, and by that I basically mean Magneto. Outside of that, I'm totally cool with them. They want to update him to Afghanistan, fine. They want to update the Punisher to Afghanistan, or Iraq, something like that. That makes total sense because those guys would not still be alive. Well, they'd still be alive, but they wouldn't be able. Magneto, the whole concentration camp thing is so tied to his identity. The Red Skull being a Nazi is tied to his identity. They have to be from that period.
Well, we got Kane now. Everybody can come back come from the past into the future now. So
yeah.
But but going into that and just being blown away by the just the visuals, the story, and just the way that Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man and Tony Stark, it had me set. I mean, and then every MCU movie after that just kept building upon that, and then you got to the first Avengers movie, and everything just kept building and building and building, and I kind of had this feeling that once Endgame happened, that it was just going to drop off, because you can only build up so much, and then you're just almost starting from scratch again. But instead of starting off with another movie like Iron Man that just starts off a new character and starts off they're still kind of trailing off of some of the other characters, which I get they needed to do. There was a point to do that, and now they're gonna start Shang-Chi. That was a great start to a new character and a good a decent movie. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was good. It was entertaining and fun to watch. But like I said, I'm not saying it was perfect. It was fun. But then Black Widow, and I'm like, okay, so it's kind of a continuation. And then Doctor Strange 2 was good. I mean, I'm glad they went a little more violent with that one, because you haven't seen that really. And it even talks about bringing back some of the Netflix shows onto Disney Plus. I'm interested to see where they go with that, because I enjoyed most of them. Iron Fist was a little whatever, but the rest of them I thought were very entertaining and such.
I am glad they're bringing back Daredevil. That was definitely the best of the shows.
Well, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time getting through the first season of Jessica Jones, because it was, I don't know, the Purple Man just makes, I don't know, he's just...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has those kind of powers that, like in a comic book, they only kind of insinuate what he might do with him. But in the show, they're just like, nah, we're going to show you what this kind of guy would be like. And it's like...
It's hard to watch. It's very, very hard to watch. And it's one of those, how are they ever going to, get past this? I did like the end, though, because I did like the fact that, I guess he had been, controlling her for so long that she kind of built up an immunity to, that. And, she did the actual smart thing and killed him versus...
Yes.
Versus letting him live. Because most shows are like, oh, we got to let him live. No.
Well, I mean, the trend in the MCU is to kill most of the people. I mean, Cap was a soldier in World War II. He killed all kinds of people, I'm sure. Iron Man, there's no way you're going to have me believe that all those people he blasts just, it's not like the college humor Batman skits where Batman's like, oh, he's just sleeping. It's like, no. Those are pulsar blasts and missiles and everything. Those people are dead. And, and Tony, he doesn't have any moral qualms over it. Most of them were terrorists. So, but yeah, I mean, to your larger point, yeah, like once you hit Endgame, like that's a tough act to follow. That's like the culmination of 20 movies. I mean, that's, that's something. That's a heretofore unseen achievement in Hollywood, and possibly in narrative storytelling outside of comic books themselves. Just that much story, and being reasonably cohesive.
And I don't think that it's impossible for them to build back up to that again, because yeah, they are still recycling a few of the heroes, which I understand that they need to, because they didn't go away. They're not just going to disappear. Some of them, I guess, do. But...
Not like Thanos and his army.
Correct. But there is the potential of introducing new characters, but they need to go back and say, what made the original movies good? What, it wasn't all about all this stuff. It was, let's go back to the comic books. Yes, we have to adapt them a little bit to fit onto the screen, because, things don't translate very well, obviously. Some political correctness stuff that, was okay back in the 80s and 90s doesn't always translate so well to now. And I get some of that.
I think their bigger problems are from the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah. Yes. But
having said that, I am quite disappointed that we'll never get like a genuine looking Mandarin. Like, I am legitimately like heartbroken over that. Yeah, I get that some people would have a problem with it. I guess. Like, people keep telling me it's a racist caricature, and then they can't tell me why. So I think they're just full of crap. Because as far as I'm concerned, he looks like David Lopan, and I don't hear many people trash talk Big Trouble in Little China. Although I'm sure they will if they ever get the remake up and running, which I hope they don't, because that movie was basically flawless. Victory. But yeah, no, even there, like I can live like had they done the Mandarin almost how they did him in the movie, martial arts guy, but wears a suit. He's business savvy. Give him the Fu Manchu, but he doesn't have to have long flowing black hair. You can have a smart haircut. Yeah, sure, like his Hall of Collection and stuff, have the Han Dynasty outfit that he wears in the comics, and he'd be like, oh, that old thing, and just keep going. Have him be a modern guy who has the rings, who's a martial arts master, but is also like Tony's opposite. He's his businessman also. Don't have him speak in English. Have him, speak clear, clean English, along with presumably Mandarin and Chinese. And, depict him as the kind of guy he is, who would be a foe to the Chinese because he doesn't like the communist system. He wants to return to the dynastic system with him at the head of it. Then you can have, to play to the Chinese audience, if that's a big concern, because I'm assuming it is, have a Chinese character or two help Tony defeat him. Because it's not like they're going to end up in a good spot if he wins either. There were ways to do it. And having it be an actor from England who was really a drug addict was not the way. Funny, but, it could have been better.
So it wasn't, this is the way?
No. Oh, total sidetrack here, folks. There was a video, someone counted how many times they said that throughout the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. And there's something like a 5,000% increase in season 3. And like one of the reviews is basically like, I better never hear this expression again because you have run it into the ground. So yeah. Anyway, a little side there. But yeah, and I agree with you. Like with Iron Man, the only expectations I had was I thought from the beginning that Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect casting, but they never explored in the movies why I thought that was going to be. Because in the comics, Tony is a raging alcoholic.
I guess demon in the bottle.
And Robert Downey Jr., for those who don't know, has had his fair share of run-ins with illicit substances and addiction. So, of all people, he would know how to play that. And so that's why I was convinced from the get-go he's the guy. So, I mean, it turned out he was still the guy no matter what, but that's why I thought he was the perfect casting for it.
And as much as I'd like the fact that he built, the Mark II and the prototype of the Mark II and all that, the whole thing with the Mark I and that just blew me away. The first time seeing it, just the presence and all of that. I mean, he wasn't unstoppable. I mean, obviously he was taking a lot of damage and had to get out of there. But just
and poor Yen Sen.
Oh yes, well he went to go see his family.
Yeah. Happier times instead of being in Bern listening to I'm Blue or whatever the hell the name of that song is.
Because he was in
the intro to Iron Man 3.
Yes, that's right. Because that's also where
that's where a real villain emerges. Guy Pearce. Man, I wish he hadn't been killed. I'm a big Guy Pearce fan. I wish he was in more stuff.
Well,
that's why I want to see more alien movies, more flashbacks with him as Wayland. I want to see a flashback movie with him as Wayland. That's Sarah and I talked about this in our fantasy versus sci-fi video. If you watched all the way to the end of that, and sorry about the sound quality, folks. We definitely agree. We want to see more alien movies. Want to see, and definitely if they just want to give Ridley Scott a ton of money and be like, look. You want to make a movie about your weird robot apocalypse you kind of got brewing here in these movies? Run with that tangent because that's cool too. Why shouldn't humanity have another threat out there in the stars? of its own making this time.
I think they
And it'd be highly topical.
I think what they could do, and they could make a great movie out of, is make a movie based off of Alien Isolation. Make one on Amanda Ripley.
Yeah, I would want to see that later though, and here's the only reason why. I think that now that Disney owns it, I think their grand plan is basically wait till Ridley Scott dies and reboot the series. And I would much rather than be like, Ridley, we know you want to make one more movie in your pre-trilogy and then a movie to connect them. If you can either mangle that into one movie, or if you can convince us, you got a plan, here's the money. Once that's done, then, run wild with other ideas. But until that's done, I don't want to see anything else. I want the resources to finish Ridley's vision so that we can see it in its entirety. But yeah, from what I've seen of Isolation, probably make a good game. Probably make a good movie too.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the sequel. It was one of those unfortunate that it didn't do well on release, but
Isolation with someone else.
Yes. But the cult following afterwards.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of related to the MCU, I suppose, since Disney owns that and Marvel makes the comics. Doubt we'll see the Xenomorph from the MCU, but you never know. All the rights are all there together.
Yeah. Well,
so
now, for the fact that they own it, we'll never see Batman fight a Xenomorph again.
Yeah. Well, I hear Batman versus the Predator was actually a legitimately good comic book. Like most crossover comics are terrible. I hear that one they actually wrote a compelling storyline. I don't have a copy of it. The single issues are definitely becoming more expensive by the day. A little comic book side note here, folks. Any kind of Marvel and DC crossover books, their value is increasing because it's becoming exceedingly likely that there will never be another crossover with Marvel and DC.
I don't know until Disney buys it.
And then DC characters with the Dark Horse characters, Aliens and Predators stuff, probably never going to be reprinted. Probably never going to see any sequels. And then I don't know if they crossed over with anyone else, but that kind of stuff, I wouldn't look forward to happening anytime soon. That's why I spent way too much money buying a reprint copy of the JLA Avengers crossover that they sold, tried to raise money to give to George Perez before he unfortunately died of cancer. And I don't know why they limited it to so few, and not the hardcover, but whatever. It was worth the price, because that has one of the most spectacular moments in comics ever. Whenever Superman's going into battle with Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield.
As one does.
Yeah. So yeah. Also, we'll never see that on the big screen. That's never going to happen, unfortunately.
You mean just like the one moment where you see Mjolnir being wielded by Captain America for the one time you're like, finally, they understand that this is what people wanted to see. They wanted to see.
Yeah, well, that's where I thank God I was figure of speech. I obviously don't thank God every day for this. I should thank him for electricity and literacy and things like that. But no, the fact that it was not Joss Whedon making that movie. He made the first two Avengers movies, and it was very clear he did not like Captain America. Never allowed him to say the catchphrase. Avengers literally cuts away in the Age of Ultron, right as he's about to say it. That's a dick move, because Joss Whedon is a dick. He is. He's a chode. And so, then the Russo brothers, the guys who made the Captain America movies, are the two that made Infinity War and Endgame. And so that's why we got that scene, which was well-deserved and spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that everybody wanted to see and knew it was going to happen, knew it was coming.
Yeah. And just the Cap just not willing to give up, no matter what Thanos was throwing at him, he was going to fight to the last breath.
Yeah, and they added the shield getting shattered, which I know was in Tony's vision, but I mean, that's all exactly why everything kind of tapered off. I had hope that they would just pick another big bad. They would start building up to that, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it could be that I got burnt out a little bit on
Yeah, I
that
mean,
build up to that movie, and then just like, I need a cleanse of this. Same thing like that. I feel like happened with Star Wars. Like went into watching The Force Awakens with a lot of high hopes. Like yeah, it's kind of a rehash of some old ideas, but
kind of.
okay, it was a rehash of old ideas.
Folks, I have to stop here for just a moment. I have talked a little bit about Star Wars in our videos, and I've probably made it abundantly clear that I despise Kathleen Kennedy with every fiber of my being. Jim has a more optimistic look at the Star Wars sequels and some of the stuff Disney does. Some of the stuff Disney does fine. Some of it's great. Like Rogue One, in my opinion, is at the level of all the other movies. Even if Disney canon were to disappear tomorrow, I would still hold that canon. But that's one reason why I wanted Jim in some of these videos, because he definitely holds a different view than I do. And so, discussion, point counterpoint.
Well, I'm saying that after we watched The Force Awakens, there was a lot of conversation, a lot of like, who was Snoke? What could he be?
Yeah.
And the visuals were good. I mean, yeah, there was obviously a lot of fan service and stuff like, with William Falcon.
And I think I've said before, if it weren't for being episode 7, The Force Awakens is a fine movie in and of itself. It's just the fact it's episode 7. That's its problem. It's got a few problems movie-wise, and I'm not going to go into here, but by and large, as a movie, it works. The other two, I think, just break down at the level of, as a movie, just don't work. Forget Star Wars sequels. Like, they just don't work as movies.
Well, they don't feel like they have any connection. I mean, even though Episode 8 takes place moments after they get back from, from what happened in The Force Awakens, it doesn't feel like it's a joined movie. It feels like they just like, okay, well, here's how the other one ended, and let's just start something else.
Yeah.
And that was started my decline on a lot of the Star Wars stuff, except for the TV shows. I thought the TV shows were good, and really, I mean, while they all have their problems and all that, I've not had any issues too much with. I mean, I had issues obviously with them, but they're okay.
Yeah.
They were, I think, better stories than what all 3 sequel movies had going for them. Not great, but better.
I think Solo was better than all 3 sequel movies, so
yeah,
I've got a fairly low bar. But
well, I mean, Solo just had the problem of coming
right after episode 8.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because it was a good movie and it didn't really deserve to be boycotted because of the other stuff. But I think people were just concerned that if they put a lot of love into Solo, that they would just keep making sequel movies afterwards versus making more of the Star Wars stories.
Yeah, well, to me, the real bad part is Solo actually introduces several things that you could take off with. Like Donald Glover nailed it as Lando. Like, where's the movie series, whatever? Like, I think they've been finally announced one, haven't they? I thought they did. But, why is it taking all this time? There could have easily been a follow-up movie or series with Lando, like almost right off the bat. Like, right there. We could have probably one more movie with Han, kind of seeing what it's like working with Jabba, but that'd probably be about the extent where you'd go with that. And then kind of jump forward to the end where he's got to dump the spice load and, get ready to go beat some people. And then Kira and Crimson Dawn and all that. That could have been its own thing. Just take off with that. That could be a series. That could be a set of movies. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Darth Maul back in action? Kira was a kind of interesting character. It's seeing the criminal underworld of Star Wars, which we haven't really seen. There was all kinds of things to do there. And if you take off with that, that's Crimson Dawn. You can introduce the Black Sun and Shizor and all that kind of stuff through that.
Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, Shadows of the Empire. That would have been great.
Yeah, because that would be a perfect, and you could take out the scenes where you have, the original, cast in there a little bit if you wanted to, just so that it's its own separate thing.
You'd have to modify it for where it's going to take place in continuity now, but you could still keep your Dash Rendar, the Shizor, the Dark Sun. You have to take out the bits of Luke and Leia and Carbonite Frozen Han because that didn't happen yet. But you could easily rework the story to make it work. to have all the major elements anyway.
Yeah, you still got Hayden Christensen can still play Vader.
Yeah. And, well, that's a whole other video, but I firmly believe there are still ways to right the ship. But, because I still contend that George Lucas should have made a trilogy of Clone Wars movies in between 2 and 3. Now, I know the idea was to make the Clone Wars series eventually. The problem is not nearly as many people watch that as watch the movies. So had they done that, 1, we could have actually seen the Clone Wars. But 2, we'd get to know the other Jedi characters. So whenever Order 66 happens, we really feel it. Like, right now it's a bunch of, all right, who the hell are these people? Unless you buy the action figure, you don't know who the hell Plo Koon is. You don't know Ki-Adi-Mundi's story, or you'd realize how even more ridiculous Anakin's antics are in the council chamber. Because yes, there is a member of the council who was not granted the rank of master already. Ki-Adi-Mundi. He was just a knight.
And also married.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, as far as the MCU, I mean, to my mind, Kang is one of those types of threats you can use because he's the time traveler. Like, that's a hell of a threat. I think, honestly, though, the salvation lies in bringing in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, doing the Fantastic Four justice, and then bringing in Galactus.
Yeah, because as big and bad as Kane is, to the normal moviegoer, he's not going to be as intimidating as Thanos. He's not got the presence to him.
He's just a guy, and that's honestly kind of his problem in the comics. He's not a very interesting character. Like, the stories he's in are interesting, and like some things about him are interesting, but he doesn't. He's a bored asshole from the future who wants to come back and prove himself by fighting the Avengers. Like, that's about Kang's character right there.
So he's like Booster Gold, but a bad guy.
He's like Booster Gold, but a villain. Yes. Yes, exactly. And you can do interesting things, especially if you introduce Immortus, which we kind of had him in the Loki series. That was kind of a version of Immortus there. And you get like some temporal war stuff going on. Like I said, there's interesting stories with Kang. It's just Kang's not that interesting. Galactus is interesting.
No, I think you're right, though. I think the Fantastic Four is the way to go, and I'm thinking obviously that's the route they're going to. So that they were supposedly in the talks of having Adam Driver be.
Yeah, I read that the other day.
Which I don't really understand why they have to recast.
I don't know why John Krasinski's right there, and he played him in the movie in Doctor Strange.
I mean, I get that people can look different across the the multiverse and all that, but I don't understand it.
Black Bolt, apparently.
I just wonder if we'll get like a shirtless Reed Richards with a giant, maybe the Kylo Ren.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame. I like Adam Driver as an actor.
You liked him as radar technician.
Yes. But no, I've seen him in some other things. He's a competent actor.
I have no issues with that, and I think if they build it up right, I think honestly, building up the Fantastic Four to be almost a replacement for the Avengers would be the right way to go with things.
So, to my mind, the big question is, with the Fantastic Four, how much of their origin do you try to preserve? Because you're at the point now in the MCU where, like, space isn't as big of a deal. So, are they still scientists go up there, stealing the ship and cosmic rays? Or are you going to go with, like, they actually left back in the 60s and have been stuck like in the negative zone for the last 5 decades, haven't aged, have these weird powers, and now they're here, and then somehow Doom is also involved.
Well, as long as they don't do what they did in Fan-Fourtastic,
I'd take the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie over that one any day of the week.
Like I say, when I say the original one, I'm not talking Roger Corman. I'm talking about the one with Captain America, Jessica Alba. Yeah, I'm joking. Chris Evans. While it wasn't a great movie, at least it's kind of stuck with what happened in the comics. They, flying into space.
You know,
comic craze.
Unpopular opinion, at least as far as I'm aware, I actually didn't have a huge problem with Julian McMahon as Doom. Like, I thought he actually did an okay job. More in the second movie when he's in the mask through half the movie, but, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing looked respectable, like, in you know, the prosthetics and such like that. And
yeah, because you got to remember that's a pre-MCU movie.
yeah.
You know, that's still very much like the X-Men had set the tone and Spider-Man somewhat of let's try to make these people look kind of grounded and realistic. Now, the MCU still does that, but they have the comic book flares to the outfits, but the outfits still look like something you could wear, you know.
And the great thing is, if we get a Fantastic Four movie, they can always have another crossover with Spider-Man as the bombastic bag man.
There you go.
And I would be totally down for that. If they were like, you know what, we're going to embrace this, and you're going to wear a paper bag over your head while you swing through.
Maybe have a multiverse crossover and get the folks from the first Fantastic Four movie back, and also have a younger Captain America in the movie, and have him and the Torch at some point be like, you look really familiar.
And see, they could have done that with the Doctor Strange movie as well.
But yeah, I would do something. Something like what I mentioned with the negative zone. Only maybe time works differently there, so they haven't been there for 50 years. Have it so that Doom was stuck in there with them, but he doesn't have powers, you know.
I think what we're coming around to is the fact that there is a need to go back to the source material. There's a need to go back and look at what made these people popular.
Yeah.
And tap back into that. Don't, you know, it's nice to write your own version of things, to write your own story of things, but when you step so far away from it, that's when you're going to get people that just absolutely refuse to go watch this stuff because it's so far removed from the actual source material.
Yeah, because I mean, the source material, like in the case of the Fantastic Four, has lasted since I think it's 1963. I mean, like, clearly something works there.
And you could have a spectacular first entry with the Fantastic Four with them fighting Mole Man and one of the giant, you know, like giant creatures that he has on his, you know, his control over. He's a minor villain for the most part, but it gets beat over the top, crazy, whatever. Get them back into the spotlight, and then start building up to.
Well, I tell you, if they went the Captain America route, and like the first movie was in the 60s, you know, like that. To me, the villain to use would be Red Ghost and the Space Apes, because he was a communist scientist, tried to recreate what happened to them. Gets up there, the space apes become intelligent, and he gains control. If I remember, he can control them. And so, like, it's topical to the 60s. You know, you're dealing with the communists and the Soviets and the Americans. It's the kind of thing that you would bury for the intel agencies. Like, that would never see the light of day. And, you know, at the end, they all disappear into the negative zone, you know, along with Doom. You know, say he was really, like, kind of masterminding the whole Red Ghost thing or something. And, yeah, they all just disappear into the negative zone and then pop back out in the modern day. And that would explain how Doom was there. He'd be with the Red Ghost. Explain why he doesn't have the powers, because he wasn't exposed to the cosmic rays, because he went on, like, the second trip that, you know, they're all on. And he'd be coming back to a Latveria that's not under his rule, so he'd reconquer it.
Oh, who was the guy that was running the... There's a villain that runs Latveria that he has to take it back from. I'm just trying to...
It's not Kristoff, is it?
I'm trying to think. I have to think about that one. I can't remember. There was
Is it Doom 2099 and Tiger Wild?
Yes, that's
okay.
One. That's I was gonna say I knew it was Tiger something, but
yeah, you do something like that. You know, Red Ghost comes back and sees that communism has utterly collapsed. You know, and now what's he gonna do? So he's gonna go to Russia or whatever, and then, you know, the Fantastic Four come back and they'll be like, "What the hell you mean you haven't heard of us? Like, we fought the space commie back in the 60s." And you're like, "No, I've never heard of you." You know, and old Fury swaggers in, you know, "I got your file right here, classified. Ain't nobody heard of you," you know, kind of stuff. Like, what do you want to hear about the Avengers? No, wait.
hey,
We've already got a team, damn it. You know?
speaking of Fury, I am looking forward to Secret Invasion. I think it has potential. Oh, well, one, because they've got Samuel L. Jackson coming back again. I think he. Well, I mean, hell, he was good enough to be the inspiration for the animated Nick Fury. I mean, pretty much didn't they develop an entire character around him, like Nick Fury Jr.
Yeah, well, that's because they want the comics to match the movies. Because in mainline continuity, Nick Fury is a white guy who fought in World War II and takes the Infinity Formula to stay young. In the Ultimates continuity, he was drawn from the get-go to look like Samuel L. Jackson. And the rumor always was that part of the deal was if they ever made a movie, they were going to have to cast him. Now, it's a rumor because there's no way Marvel made that agreement, and there's definitely no way Disney would have looked at that. They'd be like, they'd be like, we're not going to be beholden to some rando agreement you made for a drawing of some guy. Like, no. They cast him because of him looking like that, and Samuel L. Jackson takes on any kind of roles that look cool. So, but yes, to Jim's point, in the main continuity, I believe it's supposed to be Nick Fury's son is black, and so he looks more like the Nick Fury in the movies. And currently, I think I'm up to date on Nick Fury's current whereabouts. I think he's still up on the moon, having to take the Watcher's place because he assassinated the Watcher. I think that's where he is at the moment.
If they made a movie out of I think it's Original Sin, was the comic book series. That is just bonkers, and I love it. It's that if they ever made an adaptation of that, I mean, it's just all over the place, and the characters that they've got involved, and the fact that someone steals one of the eyes of the Watcher, and then someone steals the other eye, and then.
Yeah. Well, if I were a betting person, I would say their ultimate goal is to move towards Secret Wars, the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars, and then reset everything, because that's how the book ends, essentially. But the impetus is the various realities start being destroyed by the Beyonders. And the last two are the Ultimates in the mainline universe, whereas this obviously would be the movie universe. And
it would be a good way to get a new Spider-Man involved.
Yeah.
Because you get Miles Morales.
And so that's how it ends with Doom having ultimate power with literally God Almighty. And he takes the bits and pieces of various realities and merges them together into Battle World. And he rules over it like a god. And he basically stole Reed's whole family. Like, he's married to Sue. The kids are his kids now. He convinced the Human Torch to become the sun up in the sky and the Thing to become the wall around their area. And Doctor Strange became his sheriff to monitor everything. And then a bunch of folks from the 616 and the Ultimates universe show up and start causing all kinds of trouble. Because among them is Reed Richards. And Ultimate Reed Richards, who's actually a villain called the Maker. So, yeah, it ends with a fist fight between Doom and Reed for ultimate power. It's great.
Well, somewhere in there is where Thanos tries to step in and...
Yeah, Thanos, basically, he tells Doom, he's like, you have no idea how to wield godlike power. He's like, you're just using it to rule. You need to use it like an angry, vengeful, judgmental god passing judgment upon all of reality. That's how I wielded it. That's how I wielded godlike power. Doom's like, do you happen to have that Infinity Gauntlet? Well, no. He goes, well, and punches into him and tears out his spine and skull and kills him instantly. So, yeah. Then the Black Panther fights him with the Infinity Gauntlet. And that fight lasts a couple pages before Doom finally beats him. And the last of the gems is the Time Gem, and he goes back to the beginning of the storyline and sees that everything happens without all those events happening because of the fist fight between Reed and Doom at the end. Reed ends up with the powers of God, and Doom not so much. But they have a very compelling conversation where Doom's like, damn it, Reed, like, I'm the only reason anything's left. Like, you could at least say thank you or something. And Reed's like, yes, Victor, I get it. You saved reality, but you haven't rebuilt anything. He's like, you haven't even fixed your damn face, man. You've got the powers of a god, and you haven't fixed your face. And And Doom, kind of spouts off. Reed's like, look, Doom, I know the reason that you. It's like, I don't hate you, Victor. Like, I think you could be a better man. That's what I've always felt. And you hate me because you know I'm the better man. And Doom's like, yes, goddamn you. And that's where a molecule man who's controlling the powers going to Doom is like, well, as long as you both agree on that. And Doom's like, oh, wait, no. And so he strips Doom of his godlike powers and gives him to Reed. And Reed resets everything so that the Secret Wars didn't happen. But Doom still has all the memories of it. Because I think it's the final shot of the book. He walks out of his castle and takes his mask off, and his face has been fixed because Reed fixed his face. And he just starts laughing, because he's like, yep, he is the better man. And it's right after that that Doom tries to become a hero. The infamous Iron Man is what he calls himself. Kind of interesting. That was an interesting book.
It's funny just listening to all of that. Like, how if they made any of that stuff into a movie of any sorts,
yeah,
it would be great. It's like they need to kind of go back to just saying, no, let's go to the comic books. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be for everyone. Because I mean, the stuff that came before, the original Avengers. I mean, none of it was really based in anything. It was over the top. It was aliens coming through a giant black hole or giant portal above New York City, and they were going to nuke it. Okay, it's just.
Yeah, the main thing from the first Avengers that's comic accurate is that it was a plot by Loki that got the Avengers to come together originally. So that part they did get right. A lot of things they got wrong, because like Avengers #1, Cap wasn't even in the book yet. Namor hadn't found him floating in an ice cube yet. Yes, that is how he gets delivered to the Avengers. Is, hey, I found this guy floating out at sea. I think he's one of yours. He doesn't show up like issue 4, I think.
Was it Namor?
Yeah. But so overall, it's like things are drifting. They're trying to accelerate introducing the newer characters too quickly. Captain America was like the only movie that even tried to set up legacy characters in Bucky and Falcon. Iron Man doesn't have a legacy character. He's got Rhodey, he's got War Machine. So, you can do stuff there, and I think they're going to do an Armor Wars series, and he's in the Secret Invasion series. So you got that. But it's kind of the Star Wars problem in that, in my opinion, the proper way to handle the sequel trilogy would have been things are working for the characters we know and love from Return of the Jedi, and they now have, like, children and or followers, and second movie we get to see that they're competent people behind them. Third movie, through reasons, the B team has to take over. They don't overshadow the A team, but they're clearly competent. They can get things done. They have learned well. The galaxy's in good hands. Not better hands, good hands. It doesn't have to be better. That's what they always fuck these things up.
Well, they could make a Young Avengers even and kind of go that route where obviously a very inexperienced team. You've already got set up with Stature, Iron Lad, possibly.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely building towards Young Avengers. If they're not, then it's the cosmic coincidence of the millennium. But, that's how you do it, though. It's like you have your hero, and then you bring in the sidekick or the son, daughter, whatever. They have some adventures together. We see that they're competent and can do things on their own, and then they do that. They don't have to overshadow the original. They just have to be roughly as good. And then they take over. And that's what Marvel should have been doing. And, they kind of were here and there. But like what do we have with Thor? Like, first we still have Thor, but who's his eventual possible replacement?
Thunderstrike.
Yeah, Thunderstrike.
I believe he was even shorter lived than. Or there's also the guy that also played. That was also Thor. That was.
What, in Adventures in Babysitting?
Yeah, there we go. No.
So then that's the guy who plays the Kingpin. Vincent D'Onofrio played him there. That's who that is. But yeah, no, what I mean is like, okay, like with Thor, I think the Warriors 3 are dead, if I recall correctly. So Sif is still alive, and Valkyrie, but Valkyrie's not a likable character. So I just don't think anyone's going to go watch Valkyrie the movie. So you've got no one else there. Loki, if he ever finds his way back to that timeline.
Well, you know, one of the things I mentioned, speaking of, like the whole inclusion and stuff, they have the options of bringing two characters in that would fit all of those things. They could bring in Hulkling and Wiccan.
Yeah.
And they could definitely do it because they're going to have the secret invasion with the Skrulls. It wouldn't be hard to say that there wasn't the, Hulkling created during that time or around during that process. And I guess technically with WandaVision.
There's got to be some way to undo that to bring the kids back.
Or from another dimension.
Yeah. So you got those ideas. Vision at one point had a family, Do that, you get some new characters out of that. They're going to be the same as Vision, so like I said, Captain America already has his followers. We have people from the Hulk. We have She-Hulk, but we've run into the leader who's never shown back up. We have, we could always, we can't bring back Abomination as a villain at this point after She-Hulk.
But you'll have Red Hulk.
We'll have the Red Hulk. And we just need Rick Jones as his various personas, but mainly as A-Bomb. And so then we can have our legacy characters there. Ant-Man is technically already a legacy character. That's not good when your movie starts off with your guy being the legacy character, because now I guess the legacy version will be Cassie, I guess.
They could bring in the third Ant-Man to actually bring in a anti-hero.
Which one's that?
I'll have to look it up. It's
Well, don't worry about it. We're probably running kind of long here. But you see what I'm saying. Right? You bring in the second tier characters, have them work with the main characters, build up credibility as being competent, as good as, trusted by the main characters, and then when it comes time, they can take the mantle and run with it. And we really only see that with Bucky and Falcon and War Machine. We don't really have that with the other characters. So it's hard whenever characters inevitably die or actors don't want to come back, you don't have that.
The irredeemable Ant-Man, Scott, Eric O'Grady.
Okay.
Where he would do things like go into the women's locker room and
you use the powers you would expect people to use them for. Yeah.
Just make a TV show out of it,
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Introduce new characters, show that they're competent and everything, and then naturally move on.
Yep.
That's how you do it, and that way you don't upset the older fans. You get new characters that get their own fans. The older fans will hopefully see a good send off for their favorites, maybe to return later unless they die. In which case, they want to time travel or dimension jump or something else. Any of the other 10 ways we can bring anyone back now. That's kind of another problem, is the fact that the stakes are essentially non-existent now. I think that's subconsciously, I think that's factoring into people caring less for this. Is the whole so you got a time machine, which you could in theory use to get the Infinity Stones again, which you could then undo or do anything with. Plus we have the multiverse. What's the stakes again here? If anyone dies, we have several ways to bring them back.
Well,
we're gonna be able to add Skrull Imposter to the list here soon. So,
and there's always the possibility of with Kane being able to eliminate the possibility of time travel. I know it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but they can always put some sort of MacGuffin in there that's going through the quantum realm is no longer a way of time traveling anymore, even though it should definitely always be based off their logic.
Yeah, I don't know, because you're still going to have the TVA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure. I'm not going to say I'm sure they'll think of something. I'd like to believe they'll think of something. Either way, I am looking forward to the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I do want to go see that, actually, because I think that one's going to attempt to prove that there are stakes, is how I'll put that. I don't think everyone's making it out of that one. I think James Gunn knows that, like, this is the last hurrah, and the way you make things stick is people are going to die. And I think most people might be Star-Lord.
Yeah, well, then they're giving Rocket his spotlight finally, so.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and it may be the spark that's needed to reinvigorate and get things moving again. Same thing, like I said, they've taken quite a hiatus on the TV shows. I'm hoping that with Secret Invasion coming out, that too brings back some, momentum back to that whole process. Because, obviously, we like the comic book movies. I mean, we're not here talking about it because
DC has gone off the rails, but
well, that's a different story.
That is a tale of tragedy and woe, is what that is.
Well, I think they're going to right that ship at some point. I think they're going to just wipe the slate clean and start over, which is unfortunate because I think they had cast, a bunch of the characters right there.
Yeah, like if they could keep, like, I think Gal Gadot does a decent job as Wonder Woman. Let's just pretend the second Wonder Woman movie didn't happen. Aquaman's fine. Shazam's fine. I thought Black Adam was fine. And the various random, like, second stringers that they brought in to fight him, they were all okay.
I don't know, and from what I can see so far, the Flash looks like it may actually be a...
Yeah, but the Flash, we're stuck in a spot on that one, Jim.
I know why, but...
Do we support a movie starring Ezra Miller, who, as near as everyone can tell, is a criminal, like, for some pretty serious charges? But if we don't, we're not supporting Michael Keaton as Batman, damn it.
I know. I know.
This is a moral quandary.
Because to me, it looks like it's going to be probably one of the best.
Yeah.
And it could be. I could be completely wrong, but right now with the trailers, I mean, it looks like to me it's going to be one of the best, DCEU movies.
Well, I still need to watch the new trailer just came out, but I saw the older one. But yeah, the older one looked good. So
no, it looks pretty good. So, anyways.
But yeah, I'm hoping with James Gunn in control there that they'll eventually get around to something, because the second Suicide Squad movie and the Peacemaker TV series on HBO are great, and you can tell it's James Gunn is why, because he gets, you can have plenty of funny as long as it's balanced with serious, and I think he knows where that balance is, and he knows that the best way to achieve it is use C and D string characters that no one gives a crap about, so you can do anything you want to them, because that's the secret behind Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, before that movie ever came out, you could have polled, probably taken a group of a random 1,000 comic book readers, probably 10 of them knew who the hell those guys were. Now, for whatever it's worth, I would have been one of those 10, because that particular iteration of the Guardians, because there's actually 2 iterations of the Guardians, this is the newer one, was in one of the best cosmic storylines ever. The older Guardians, would be interested to see them. They're kind of in the movie already, but, to really see them. The Guardians, the Guardians 3000. Yeah. But anyway, so hopefully things turn around, and hopefully Guardians of the Galaxy reignites people's interests, because a lot's riding on this one. After, I think Black Panther 2 did okay, but Ant-Man 3 did not. So, and Shazam 2 did not. So for comic movies in general, the fatigue's obviously set in. And so it's really, I think Guardians might be like, is this where we right the ship? Or is this like that moment where things look like they're okay before the collapse.
Question is, will anyone talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special?
They're gonna make some HeroClix figures from it, I think.
I watched it. It was all right.
Apparently I need to watch it. I guess I heard it was good. So, but anyway, folks, what do you think? Are you still going to watch the MC movies religiously? Did you watch them religiously? Let us know down in the comments. If you think the day of the comic book movie is over, what will step in to fill the void? Is Mario just the first in a new era of video game movies? Well-made video game movies, hopefully. Otherwise, it'll be a really short era as usual for video game movies. Yeah, let us know down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But at any rate, folks, see you out there, maybe at the movies.